Welcome to a new video. Today we're going through Muhammad Ali's top 10 all-time heavyweight champions list. Many fans pick Ali to be the greatest heavyweight, yet Muhammad Ali displayed uncharacteristically humility in this list. He didn't list himself at all, as he wanted to leave this part to the public in the office of the book, the ultimate book of boxing lists, from which we took this list. It was written by the well-known Burt Randolph Sugar and Teddy Atlas. But take note that this list is not to be a top 10 list in the conventional sense, meaning that one is the best. It is only a chronological ranking of champions, which Ali thought to be the best in their time. And now we start from the era after Ali's retirement and go back in time. This video was recorded with Gustavo from Rocky Marciano, Brazil. Also make sure to visit my second boxing channel, Legends of Boxing in Color, where I showcase and restore old boxing films. Thanks to all the Patreons, and let's get on with the video.
Ali was widely known, and he still is, as a loudmouth fighter who would promote his fights by shouting, by calling himself the best of the world, the most beautiful, the fastest, and the Superman. And in some points, I think he wasn't wrong, but he wasn't humble until much later in his life. And in this list, it shows.
Starting with number 10, Larry Holmes. He picked Larry Holmes in the list, which a guy who came a bit after his era, but he still fought him and he lost later on in his career. It's a very sad fight, and you can see that even though he lost to him not in a good condition, he still rates Larry Holmes very highly and still picks him in this list.
Yeah, Larry Holmes. Talking about humility, Muhammad Ali said, Holmes were strong, a hard hitter. He beat me, didn't he? So here is he displaying humility and being only neutral and checking the fighter's best abilities, and we can see he could evaluate a good fighter by what he had and by how he used it. So many fighters could hit hard, but not all of them could use it in a very effective way. After all, he beat him, didn't he?
Another thing about Larry Holmes is he was a very good jabber and he was very good on the outside. This is maybe one of the things where he goes under the radar, is he wasn't the most entertaining and he also didn't have the opponents in his era for which he could prove his greatness to them. And
Sure.
So he went under the radar and he was the guy after Muhammad Ali. So this is a very hard situation to prove yourself.
Damn right. And he had 74 fights, 68 wins, 43 KOs. Yes, sir. And 6 losses. I should remind all the listeners that this list doesn't have it's not a ranking or a rating list. It's a chronological list. He goes back to Jack Johnson. So this is the best you can get from Ali because he, everybody knows, was a very intelligent man. He could make an intelligent analysis and a neutral one.
In number 9 we have another guy from Muhammad Ali's era. We have George Foreman. Back in his days, in the 1970s, when George Foreman was coming along in the time when Ali was exiled from the sport. Then Joe Frazier became champion. Then Ali tried to regain the title but failed. Then this big man would come along, George Foreman. He would destroy anybody George Foreman would destroy the guys who beat Ali. He would destroy Joe Frazier in 2 rounds and also Ken Norton. Both guys gave Muhammad Ali a lot of trouble, but in the end, in the Rumble in the Jungle, Muhammad Ali could beat George Foreman, and here we can see Muhammad Ali clearly rates George Foreman. He rated George Foreman higher than Sonny Liston because Sonny Liston isn't on this top 10 list?
According to Ali's words, George Foreman was strong, needless to say, and hard hitter and a knockout puncher. Ali wasn't a knockout puncher. He would wear out his opponents and he would even make mockery on them so they would lose their temper. He was speed and movement, but George Foreman, I am afraid of George Foreman. And he's one of the most sympathetic guys around.
Back in the times, George Foreman just went through guys when he was coming up. He's just, if you look at the records, just knockout, and 1 round, 2 rounds. Even to champions and ex-champions, and beating the best in 2 rounds is crazy.
Yeah, and
he just bullied Frazier.
Yeah,
Ali went 15 rounds with him and couldn't put a dent in him. And amazing. George Foreman bullied him.
Ali says George Foreman had a good left hook and a right cross, and he was dynamic. Ali had not split second of a doubt on rating him on this list.
For sure, also he is maybe the strongest guy physically in a ring that you could see as a champion, and he's one of the hardest puncher, maybe the hardest puncher. Him or Ernie Shavers or Liston. One of the 3 guys is one of the hardest punchers. They're all very strong physically.
Yeah, Ernie Shavers, now that you mention, we can talk about this in our time. I think he's, until this day, under the radar. I'm in some literature, but now that you mention, the man could hit. My God.
Have you seen the KO of Shavers where he KOs Kenny Norton, where he's him in the corner and he goes for the right uppercut and finish him?
My man, he could decapitate people.
It's like when you hit him, it's like he was paralyzed. He couldn't move in a way. Went like down, and as if like his upper body was paralyzed, as if he couldn't move, but his legs worked. He get up, hit again, and then he down and stays down. And now number 8, Smokin Joe Frazier.
I think of Joe Frazier, old, going away in the new.
Like he combined this, I'd say, a bit Henry Armstrong style, this bobbing and weaving style, combined with him being a heavyweight and a great left hook.
As he said, Frazier hit hard. He was a brawler, and this is something to be addressed sometime soon, because there were professional fighters, guys like Gene Tunney, refined guys, Sugar Ray, and you name it, Floyd. These guys that came out of they had more violence than technique. Ali calls him a brawler. So, but not the stupid kind of brawler. He had technique, he had power, and he had this brawler characteristic that is moving forward. He would move forward at any cost. The more you beat him, he would advance. He had a strong chin. I read an interview about these old timers, these guys who were there back in the 40s and the 50s. And interviewer asked, was a sports writer, what does it take to be a champion, especially a heavyweight champion? And he said, balls. Yeah, it takes some very special type of fighter to expose himself to some things that we know that happened and some we don't. I've been reading about it, and by the time the rules, were not very well respected, and by the time boxing was even illegal, people died like flies or went crippled for the rest of their lives. You think of Frazier, he has it all.
What I think makes Frazier special here is he is one of the biggest rivals to Muhammad Ali, and he basically went to hell with Muhammad Ali on 3 occasions. He even beat him like in the first fight. He pushed Muhammad Ali to the absolute maximum in the third fight. Got outboxed in the second, but he was a very great rival to Muhammad Ali, and you can see Ali respects it, and he puts him in number 8 here. So Frazier number 8. great style and a very entertaining puncher.
Anyway, I would like to come back to Frazier because 37 fights, 32 wins, 27 KOs.
He had a very explosive career, Joe Frazier. His rise was very quick, but he also fell after the George Foreman loss and the fight in Manila. He was very much done quickly and had to quit the game. The number 7, Rocky Marciano. Muhammad Ali and Rocky Marciano had the famous computer fight, in which, depending on your location, one of the two would win. But in the most fights, most theaters, Muhammad Ali would win by stoppage, and because Marciano had some kind of a cut in this computer fight.
Ali says about him, rugged, could take a punch and just keep coming. This is the brawler style. He beat up on opponents' arms so they could not hold their arms up to defend themselves. Think about a bar fight. You're going to hit anything that comes across you. You're going to throw glasses, and that was he could do. Charlie Goldman tried his best to teach him a couple of things, but it didn't work. He was too old. He would not go the distance. He wasn't skillful. Most of the fighters, I'd like to say this. It's not about boxing. It's about trading. It's about strikers of any kind of fighting sports. You need some like a bullet in the barrel. The more in the barrel of a rifle, the pressure under the bullet makes it fly faster and cause more destruction. So the distance is necessary. If your hand is too close to the target, you are going to push the guy's face. But if it comes with your body behind the punch, you're going to do some damage. And Marciano didn't need this distance, so he could hurt people from very close. So he didn't make the distance. He kind of played sumo and stopped the biceps of the opponent and tried to get stuck to the opponent's body, so his opponent
He also has these
wouldn't.
short arms, which is good for
Yeah,
the
he had.
style, and he doesn't need
You said,
this huge way. He has only a short distance to travel, and
no need for distance. Ali had the stamina to outlast Marciano, which I believe would be a hard task. He might have won Marciano in a real fight.
if Muhammad Ali can stay on his feet and dance around and not get stuck in the corners, he would beat Marciano. It's only in the later rounds it really gets interesting if Marciano can catch up with him and pin him on the ropes or somewhere if he gets tired.
I couldn't, yeah, I couldn't agree more. You can watch.
But he wouldn't outbox him. He's like a small guy, no really big boxing skills, and if his art is very quick with the quick left hand, it's just a matter of the rounds if he can close the gap over the time.
So I want to go down and record as saying that you were the hardest puncher I ever fought, and the night that I fought you, I believe you were the greatest. Your punches were strong and powerful. You were moving around so good.
So at number 6 we have Jersey Joe Walcott, another dancer like Muhammad Ali himself, and fitting under him in the list we have is Rocky Marciano. He wasn't as dominant, and he has some victories, great victories over Ezzard Charles, and he had a very good performance over Marciano. And
Well, Marciano tasted his first knockdown fighting Jersey Joe Walcott. Well, Marciano had an iron chin, but I believe it was a hard punch. And Walcott was a church-going man, and it's crazy to think about it. And he had, I guess, I don't know, 12 kids. He had to provide for them. So he has a long history, 72 fights, he won 53. He KO'd people 33 times and only 18 losses and one draw. 72 fights. Wow. You can. He was a big man. He had range. He could move like a lighter fighter. He could weave, bob, and Marciano couldn't find the target. And he was 38, or I know, by the time he fought Marciano first time for the title back in September 52. But Walcott, he was out of the ring. I like to stress that he was one of the most educated, elegant men towards. He could conciliate this with being aggressive on the canvas. So I think this lacked some fighters, great fighters, lacked this aggressive instinct.
Beautiful footwork and then these short counter punches.
Head moving.
Yeah. On number 5 we have Ezzard Charles, another guy from this era. He also was a good counterpuncher, and he has given us 2 very entertaining battles against Marciano and 4 fights against Walcott. He won 2, and also a good mover. And you can see in the list that Muhammad Ali really likes movers a lot, and he rates them accordingly.
Yeah, Ali said very shortly about Ezzard Charles. Scientific boxer and fast. I would say dangerous. If I had to pick a guy not to fight against, this would be Charles. I'm afraid of this man. You don't know what comes and where it comes from, and it's going to hurt. Marciano was more predictable, and others were stronger, but not so fast like Charles.
Yes, very, very interesting angles he comes at, and the way he counters hooks and throws in between your combinations, very unconventional in a way, but also his stance and all is very textbook boxing with a lot of creativity and counterpunching.
Ezzard Charles, he knew how to adapt, adjust his game according to the opponent.
So a good boxing IQ. Yeah. I think it would be interesting, him and Ali. I think this would be interesting.
Yeah,
Because he's also smart, and
yeah.
it would be very interesting chess match.
Charles, he fought 122 times. These guys nowadays they fight twice a year. Well, times are changing, and I'm not criticizing anybody.
Okay, at number 4, Ali picked Joe Louis, and he's obviously like regarded as one of the greatest guys before Muhammad Ali. And he had many title defenses and was a very intelligent guy and a knockout artist and hard puncher.
Ali, he said that Louis was a knockout puncher, fast. Joe Louis fought a lot. He fought 71 fights. For me, Joe Louis is the best. I don't want to choose, but Joe Louis, he evolved boxing. He revolutionized boxing, and he is the father of guys like Ali. Not only him, please, but jabbing, moving, retreating. He didn't have to move forward like brawler fighters. He was scientific. He was the smart guy, and he was the for what he had seen until his time. He put everything together, and he showed the world that boxing involves lots of things, including punches, if you want. But you don't need to punch. It's like but imagine that Muhammad Ali, he was intelligent, and he said, if I do what this guy does, because I'm not exactly the strongest guy in the world, and I take it to the next level, I'll be a champion, and it happened. So Joe Louis should be on Ali's list.
At number 3, he has picked Gene Tunney, great technician, a boxer and a mover from the 1920s, and he's most known for outboxing Jack Dempsey twice. And I think it's a very interesting pick that he's chosen him. He likes to see boxers more than punchers, I feel, Ali, and this would make sense.
He said, great left jab, accurate left jab, and right cross. Straight punches, good defensive fighter. I have much more to say about Gene Tunney. To begin with, that he's very underrated. I know this guy was too good for his time. He was ahead of his time, 100 years. Gene Tunney was the smart guy.
He's like one of the guys who really had to retire because there were no other opponents left at his time. He basically beat everybody he could, and then he went. And he was so good at heavyweight, he never lost actually. He only lost to Grab in another weight class. I'm not sure which one.
I have a
but
question
he never
for
lost
you.
at heavyweight.
Do you think that Gene Tunney, in the beginning of his career, taken for some before he proved how good he was in the beginning, that people boxing business, did they think that Gene like playboy, strong and tall guy who wouldn't last 2 fights?
They surely underestimated him because he was like a bookworm, and it's not very common for like a fighter to be educated in that time. And also his figure, is too good looking for a fighter. If you mean that.
Hair.
I mean, this is surely somebody who would make fun of him.
Yeah, man, we should. Well, if you give it some thought, we should sometime talk about Gene Tunney.
Looked at some of the films of him today, actually.
Yeah, make justice to what he did. He did a lot, but so much that it's amazing how his name doesn't even appear if you turn on YouTube, or you have to search like a.
Yeah, it's very, very unknown actually. It's people know Jack Dempsey, but somehow, some way they don't know Gene Tunney. It hasn't gotten through.
Dempsey is down from a hard left. He went down to his knees.
So at number 2, he has Jack Dempsey, the rival of Gene Tunney before that, and he was champion before that from 1919 to 1926. And he was also a very aggressive pressure fighter, and in a way similar to Marciano, but he was more sophisticated pressure fighter, and very, very dangerous guy to mess with.
There's no way Ali wouldn't mention Jack Dempsey. He said he was strong, he could take a punch, and he hit hard. Oh yeah, and good boxer. I would add brawler. So old breed of brawlers like Marciano, Dempsey, and some other guys that would use what they had in hand, which made them predictable. But he had more resources and skills than Marciano, that for sure. And pressure was his secret.
Yeah, the pressure he brings to you, he breaks down guys this mentally.
Yeah, it took a Gene Tunney to get rid of him, because he would get close to the opponent as much as he could, and he would hit with both hands.
Even the fight with Gene Tunney, it was even old Dempsey against a fit, technical, way better Gene Tunney, decked him in the second one, and it was a close count. Not gonna say that he wouldn't have gotten up, but this is probably the only round that he won against Tunney, but he had something to bring. It's dangerous, even for somebody as good as Tunney.
And that long count deserves a video.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that fight.
The next controversy. you can see that Tunney was just waiting for the count, and it wouldn't have mattered the 2 seconds. I mean, in the total of the round, they might have mattered because he wouldn't have regained his senses a bit slower. 2 seconds, this could make a difference. But judging from the way he was looking at the judge, I say he would have gotten up regardless. But if he would have survived after that, if it was 2 seconds different, nobody knows. I mean,
yeah. When by the time Marciano was knocked down in his title fight against Walcott, the people in the corner shout, "Stay down, stay down, wait to the count of 10, recover yourself." But he didn't, because staying down will definitely help you.
Yeah.
And well, but I would like to discuss with you not only the long count, but what he did to create the space to destroy Tunney, because that what was a smart move. Without that, he would lose the fight, and he did lose by split decision. But he found a way. So Tunney wasn't like Ali, wasn't easy to find. You had to commit and come closer and get hit. So that was a clever move from Dempsey, don't you think?
Yeah, it was the only way he could get to Tunney. There's no other way he would come close enough at this age to get off his punches, I think.
Yeah, I think he was 3 years out of boxing.
He had in between, while he was holding the title after the Carpentier fight, he went out of boxing for, I think, nearly 3 years. Then came back against, I think it was Firpo. And then again was inactive another year or so. And then fought Tunney, I think.
No easy task.
The thing about Dempsey, I like him a lot from watching. But the problem with his is he was very inactive as a champion. Okay, this is how it was. He fought Carpentier, then he was inactive for nearly 3 years. Fought Tommy Gibbons and had a not so entertaining 15-round decision. Fought Firpo, which was then an exciting fight again. And then he was then he had another 3 years where he was inactive. And then he fought Gene Tunney and lost.
So, after 3 years?
Yeah, he had, as a champion, before he faced Tunney, he was inactive for 3 years. He wasn't fighting at all, but still had the belt. It's a lot of inactivity, and
he hit him 4 times. I mean, in a sequence, he found the space he could approach, and it was almost impossible to do, especially if you are 3 years at home. That sequence, that final sequence that knocks Tunney down, well, I would like to analyze that.
It's one of the maybe last good punches that he had in him. It's like the whole fight he didn't really commit, and then this one sequence he explodes like he used to, and he puts him down.
Having a good time in a society that wasn't given to a good time before World War I. It was a tight-corseted, tight-lipped, tight-ass society.
In 1946, Johnson died in an automobile accident at the age of 68 while driving to the championship fight between Joe Louis and Billy Conn. He lost control of his sports car and crashed into a telephone pole. A reporter later wrote, "Jack Johnson died crossing the white line for the last time."
Jack Johnson was a big...
Muhammad Ali was a loud mouth, and he liked people like that, who were confident. And so in number 1, Muhammad Ali has Jack Johnson.
Yeah, Jack Johnson enjoyed life.
The the first black heavyweight champion, who he was like a thorn in the eyes of the people at the time. Like he was a black man living basically like a rock star in a way, and didn't give a damn that people hated him, and he lived under enormous pressure and performed well. There's a famous like clip where he talks about it also.
Jack Johnson was a big inspiration because of what he did out of the ring. He was so bold. Jack Johnson was a black man back when white people lynched Negroes on weekends, every weekend. Back in 1909, they would send him letters saying, "You fighting a white man, and nigger, if you knock him out, we'll kill you." He said, "Just kill my black buckers, I'm gonna knock this white man cold." And he would knock the white man out, and the Ku Klux Klan would be burning them. They killed Negroes all over the country. When Jack Johnson wanted to fight, they had riots all over South America. It was so serious, and Jack Johnson, he's bad. He had to be a bad, bad black man. Wasn't no black Muslims to defend him. Wasn't no NACP in 1909. Wasn't no Rap Brown. Wasn't no MOVE. All these black groups. Wasn't no Angela Davis, no Hill Newton, no Malcolm X. He was by himself. Jack Johnson. It was so long ago, people still had log cabins in this country, and they rode horses and wagons and stagecoaches to fight. He was one black man in the midst of all them rednecks would kill lynch Negroes every day. He would dress up in pretty suits. Negroes are allowed to dress up in days. He put on pretty white neckties and pretty white, and had white women. You know that nigga was bold. He married white women. You would get lynched for looking at a white woman in them days. That man married white women and walked around, took pictures with his white women, married two of them, and they even run him out of the country because of white woman. He left the whole country and fought out of Cuba. He was bad.
Ali, in his early life, I don't know if I addressed this theme here. In his youth, he was engaged with racism things and religion and the things. So he was proud of Johnson because of these issues. I do not want to address. We're talking about the sport, but you are free if you want to. But Johnson, like you said, Ali went all the way from 1908 to 1985, Larry Holmes. So he picked guys from different eras and times, and Jack Johnson would be his natural pick. He always said good things about him. Jack Johnson gave some trouble to people take his title away. People came from UK. I guess he fought in Australia. I'm not sure.
Yeah, he beat Tommy Burns in Australia, chased him around the world, and then they finally met somebody who would put up money and a stadium in Australia for them to fight each other. And this is how it happened in Australia.
Yeah, and there's something to it. Heavyweight fights for black people became illegal for a short while. Yeah. So he had to wait to fight abroad.
Yeah. This was before it was Jack Johnson was traveling around the whole world and coming around wherever Tommy Burns went, and he challenged him, even though there was this law that prohibited for him from fighting.
Yeah.
Till somebody in Australia said, "You know what, I want to see that, I will put up the money and you do it." And then they put up a contract and they fought each other. The thing with Jack Johnson is they had these white hopes where people put James Jeffries out of retirement to fight him, which was a ridiculous idea in the first place. Yeah. And Jack Johnson just didn't care and knocked everybody out of them or boxed them, and
he did.
Just too funny.
He gave the world a lesson. He had girls and cars, and he didn't care less.
The film where Jack Johnson drives a car with some real race car people, like some Formula 1 type, and Jack Johnson turns up with his own car and drives around. There's
Yeah,
short thing about it is funny.
this kind of things yeah, they helped banning heavyweight for black people. He could have things other people couldn't because he went up on the canvas and got the job done.
Yeah, and he had the courage to challenge this world, and in a way that's similar to Muhammad Ali, where he would challenge the establishment by not wanting to be drafted.
The so-called niggas go 10,000 miles away from home here in America to drop bombs and bullets on other innocent brown people.
And realistically, he wouldn't have fought in the war because it wouldn't have happened. He would have just had to, I don't know, make some exhibitions in some military camps or made some training for the soldiers or something. But in the end, he stayed to his principles, and similar to Jack Johnson, the situation, and you can see why Ali really liked him and respected him a lot.
Loughran and Tunney and no, Marciano was not the case. Marciano didn't like boxing, but these guys they went to the military just to get people fit and train boxing. So yeah, they did the best they could of their lives, I guess.
This is the final list. Please remember that this list is not a rating within the list. These are only Ali's picks within the eras, where he picked out the strongest of each era.
Back in 1909, man. Man, you know, Jack Johnson was the greatest. He had to be the greatest of all. Wasn't no Black Panthers, wasn't no bodyguards, white people, lynching nigga, was no television, was no telephone. And that Negro was doing all this stuff in them days. He was bad when you think about it. I know I'm bad, but he was crazy.